It was the perfect crime, pulled off in the dead of winter under the nose of the world's busiest airport. No alarms, no witnesses, no trace. When the sun rose over New York on December 11, 1978, $6 million had simply vanished. It would become the biggest cash robbery in American history, at least at the time, and the beginning of the Mafia's end. New York in the late 1970s was a machine built on hustles, garbage routes, construction contracts, truck deliveries, every moving part oiled by mob money. But no machine pumped out more temptation than JFK Airport. Every night, flights from Europe arrived carrying cash for currency exchanges, millions in bills sealed in metal crates. Building 261, Lufthansa's cargo terminal, handled a river of money with only a trickle of security. It wasn't designed for theft. No one imagined anyone could pull off a heist there. Inside that building worked Louis Werner, a ground supervisor drowning in gambling debts. Desperation makes strange partnerships, and Werner had a friend with mob ties. Through quiet barroom conversations, his secret leaked out. There's $6 million in that vault, every few days, just sitting there. When that whisper reached Jimmy Burke, an Irish mobster under the Lucchese family, he didn't smile. He planned. Burke was a strategist, quiet, calculating, the kind of man who turned small crimes into big fortunes. With Lufthansa, he saw the ultimate score: fast, clean, and silent. Werner had already proved the system's weakness once. 2 years earlier, he and another employee had skimmed foreign currency off the tarmac, caught, convicted, and desperate for redemption. Now, he wanted out and a cut. Burke's crew was carefully assembled. Tommy DeSimone, a volatile enforcer, Henry Hill, the smooth-talking hustler, Stax Edwards, the driver and cleanup man, and a handful of others whose names would later be buried with them. They practiced every step: the shift changes, guard rotations, and radio codes. Burke insisted on total precision. He knew this wasn't just about money. It was about sending a message. The mob could still outthink America. But history doesn't bend easily. Every perfect plan hides a fault line, and this one was about to split open. December 11th, 3 a.m., a van rolled quietly through the fog. 6 men in stolen Port Authority uniforms walked straight into Lufthansa's Building 261. They moved like ghosts through fluorescent light. Within minutes, the night guard was down, wrists bound with duct tape. Inside the vault, steel doors opened with a slow groan, revealing an ocean of cash. $5 million in bills, $875,000 in jewels. No alarms, no panic, no errors. 90 minutes later, the van disappeared into Queens, leaving only empty pallets and disbelief behind. By dawn, the FBI arrived. No forced entry, no cameras, no fingerprints, just whispers and one inevitable suspect. Everyone in law enforcement knew who could pull off something this clean. Jimmy Burke's name was spoken in every hallway. But there was no proof. Not yet. Burke's rule was simple: stay invisible. No big purchases, no bragging, no mistakes. But greed is louder than fear. Days later, Stax Edwards failed to get rid of the getaway van. He parked it outside his girlfriend's apartment in Canarsie, Brooklyn, still full of fingerprints. The FBI found it within days. That single oversight turned perfection into exposure. Burke saw it coming apart, and he did what mobsters have always done when fear sets in. He started cleaning house. Stax Edwards was the first to go, shot in his sleep. Marty Krugman, the bookmaker who brokered the inside tip, vanished on his way to dinner. Angelo Seppi disappeared next. Tommy DeSimone, once too violent to control, was summoned for a meeting with the Gambino family and never came home. The bodies told a story, one of paranoia and betrayal written in blood across New York's underworld. The FBI watched the funerals, the cars, the patterns, but they couldn't touch Burke. He never showed his face, never touched the money, never said a word. By 1980, Henry Hill was spiraling. Cocaine, sleepless paranoia, the weight of knowing he was next. He'd been part of Burke's inner circle for years, running hijacks, drug deals, airport jobs. But he knew Burke's temper. He'd seen the cleanup. and he could feel his number coming up. When federal agents stormed his home on drug charges, Hill saw one exit left: cooperation. In the interrogation room, he whispered the same way the Lufthansa secret had first been whispered years before, and the world began to listen. Hill's testimony exposed the invisible map of the Mafia, the payoffs, the unions, the airport contacts, the heist details only an insider could know. 50 convictions followed, from small-time earners to family captains. Burke himself was finally nailed, not for Lufthansa, but for the Boston College point shaving scandal, and later for murder. He died behind bars in 1996. The man who'd once outsmarted everyone. The code of silence, omerta, had cracked wide open. The underworld wasn't invisible anymore. It had names, faces, and case files. Even today, the money from Lufthansa has never been fully recovered. Of the millions stolen that night, only a fraction ever resurfaced. No jewelry traceable, no marked bills, just stories and silence. In 2014, almost 4 decades later, a frail Vincent Asaro, a reputed Lucchese captain, was arrested. Prosecutors claimed he'd helped plan the original heist and kept part of the loot. But after a long trial, a jury found him not guilty. The evidence was too old, the ghosts too quiet. Still, investigators found one haunting clue. Buried behind a Queens house owned by Asaro's cousin, a rusted container filled with old, decaying jewelry, eerily similar to what disappeared from Lufthansa's vault. It was never proven to be part of the haul, but the legend lived on. The Lufthansa heist wasn't just a robbery. It was a mirror, reflecting a moment when America's underworld ruled the streets, when the mob's reach extended from airport runways to politicians' offices. But this heist, more than any before it, revealed something deeper, that even the tightest criminal empire collapses from within. It showed that loyalty, when soaked in greed, eventually drowns itself. By the time the Gardner Museum theft happened years later, America had already learned a lesson from Lufthansa. The perfect crime doesn't exist. It only sleeps, waiting for history to wake it up again. $6 million bought silence for a night. But it cost the mob its soul forever. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we uncover more of history's dirty secrets.